George, I was hoping we could spend a little time today talking about the Digital Operations Center of the future. What is it, and more importantly, how do we get there?
Well, the million-dollar question. I think the Digital Operations Center of the future is going to be very small. The current operations centers are bespoke. They're managing a whole myriad of applications and services, looking across our network, across our IT estate. And actually, as we see digital operations coming in, what we're seeing is a standardization of services, the emergence of commodity compute as something that is absolutely sufficient and capable of managing and running our business, and therefore the need for bespoke engineered solutions becomes a thing of the past. So getting the APIs right, getting the definition of the virtualized infrastructure of the digital future correct will actually mean that much of the cost that we have today in our networks, in our systems, will disappear.
So this isn't going to happen overnight. What are some of the steps along the way, and where do you think is the most important place to start? Where have you started at BT?
So, like all service providers, we have a significant investment in what is now legacy infrastructure, both in the OSS, the BSS, and in the network. So moving to the digital future is not going to be something that happens overnight, and we're going to have to manage a hybrid environment. We're going to have legacy coexisting with the new strategic virtualized infrastructure. And the key thing to move forward is to find a way of enabling the BSS and the OSS to coexist and manage both the legacy and the new virtualized infrastructure at the same time. So there's going to have to be a level of abstraction at the APIs whenever you talk from the service management layer down into the resource managers to ensure that you can get a consistent means of actually configuring your network, managing your network, and also of monitoring your network. At the moment, all of those APIs are vendor specific and bespoke and cost us an awful lot of money, take us a lot of time to develop them, and the lead time for changing them is far, far too long.
How can the forum help with that?
Standard APIs defined. I'm working all week in Action Week in the API work stream, and hopefully going to join up with the Zoom guys on Thursday looking at the Zoom APIs. And if we can get the patterns and the abstractions of those APIs correct, then we've got a fantastic opportunity to really take a big leap forward and standardize those interfaces. What we're actually seeing is effectively the triumph of compute over network. The network is becoming a computer. You've got virtualized hardware because that is now commodity, standard, and works faster than the bespoke hardware that we would have typically procured and built for our routers, for our firewalls. So we don't need to do that anymore. And actually then the application that sits on top of that is just configurable software. And that is what software engineering is about. Standard hardware, configurable software, and if you get that right with a clean set of APIs that have got pattern matching and abstraction, where you understand what are the key things at each level within your architecture that actually are configurable, and the key things that need to be exposed to the consuming level or the calling level, where actually that makes a difference in terms of what the customers are interested in or what the service is. Then if you get that right, there's the opportunity to really transform this space.
Right. So how long do you think this transition takes, and what are some of the most difficult things to deal with along the way? I'm thinking in terms of organization and culture.
Siloed departments within organizations. I started out my career working in network and network management as a software engineer. A lot of people that joined me in BT at the time when I joined started out working in networks and have evolved and developed their career in networks and are specialists in that field. What we're now seeing is those two worlds are coming together, and we need a hybrid engineer who understands networks and the rigors associated with the resilience, the reliability and the availability that's so important in a network, but also understands the key techniques of software engineering about writing quality code, about understanding a design that builds a pattern that can be repeatable, that can abstract the service so that you get the key elements of that service. Those are the things that you manage, because that's where the monetization comes, that's where the configuration comes, that's where the agility comes.
Where do you find those guys? I've been talking to a lot of people recently about actually developing these types of jobs and trying to get kids from university into these types of jobs.
I think internal training is certainly something. We're a large organisation. We recruit a large number of graduates each year from the local universities across the UK. And obviously we can train people up there. But there's nothing to say that somebody who's had 4 or 5 years as a software engineer can't learn about networks, and vice versa. Somebody who's got 4 or 5 years as core network engineering and the IP networks and so on that we've got today can't become a good software engineer. You can do a software programming conversion course. My son's actually doing a master's in computer programming. It's a 1-year course. Well, we can actually put together that sort of level of training inside our organisation and actually convert people from network to software engineers, or vice versa, so that you get that hybrid engineer.
Right. Last question, how far along is BT then in developing your Operations Center of the Future?
We are beyond the proof of concept stage. We've been running some trials. We've got some live implementations of virtualized infrastructure running. We're typically, and I'll be completely honest, we're playing at the edge of the data center because that's the safe place to play. Mm-hmm. We haven't gone into the core of the network, but I will be pushing the guys there because I want to see the core network transformed. At the TM forum in Nice, it was interesting talking to some of the network providers who actually have core routers and core switches implemented now using NFV SDN type technology and type patterns, and that's inevitable that it's going to happen. That's the route that we're going down. It's a matter of timing. It's a matter of managing the risk, because obviously, from BT's perspective, the network is our core function. If that's not working, our customers are not going to be happy. But that's where we're going, and that's going to be the transformation that's coming our way.